Okay guys, this is my Ross R-10 sporting rifle, and this is a Ross rifle in 303 British. And despite the fact that it might look like a sporterized military rifle, the R-10 is in fact a purpose-built sporting rifle. So let's have a look at it starting down at the butt. See, it's got a steel butt plate. The stock is of walnut with a pistol grip. The R-10 features the Ross MKIII or M10 action, which is the same as used on the Mark III military rifle, used by Canadian forces in World War I, at least at the early part of the war. And you can see this has got the old-fashioned splinter type forend, and a very long barrel, 26 inches I believe. Okay, let's have a look at the left side of the rifle. Let's start up front. We've got a blade foresight pinned onto a base. It's basically a non-adjustable front sight. Got the rather long barrel. A band attaching the barrel to the stock by means of this sling swivel, which is also a screw which attaches to that band. Got a sporting style rear sight. The Ross company actually purchased these from Winchester. They did not make them themselves. And you do all your windage and elevation adjustments using the rear sight. Moving back a little further, see the legend on it here, made in Canada. So this was made in Quebec. And the serial number on these rifles appears on the barrel. Now, military Ross rifles were not serialized, only on the stock. See the left side of the action here. I notice in very Canadian fashion right now it's starting to snow. Anyway, have a look at the top of the action. M10. People often mistake these as being an M10 rifle, but in fact the M10 is just the action, not the actual rifle itself. And of course the legend Ross Rifle Company. Rifle also features a slightly different bolt stop than the military one. This is only two positions. In the upper position the bolt can be removed. In the bottom position the bolt is locked in place. In a military Ross, there's a third position which acts as a magazine cutoff. And we've got the protruding Mark III style of magazine, which is 6-round capacity. And these stocks were originally finished in an oil finish. So a fairly utility type configuration. The Ross E10 was a step up from this. It would have had a checkered walnut stock. The R10 was the kind of the economy version of the Ross sporting rifle. So let's have a look at the underside of the Ross rifle. Protruding 6-round magazine, pistol grip, and sling swivels. Okay, let's have a look at the top of the Ross rifle action. If you want to look closely, you can see that we've got some color case hardening left here on the top of the action. The bolt is also color case hardened. Fair bit of finish wear to this particular rifle, of course, but considering the fact that it's quite old, manufactured I believe about 1917 or so. So considering its age, I think it's doing pretty well. The safety catch on the Ross rifle is located on the right hand side of the bolt here. You can see on the top of the safety catch, when it's in the fire position, it reads ready. And then when disengaged, or sorry, when you're engaged, the other side reads safe. It's a pretty positive safety catch. back here a little further. With the rifle cocked and the safety catch applied, strikers cam back from engagement with the trigger mechanism, and the bolt is also locked so that it cannot be opened. So it's a good, safe, secure type of safety catch. With the bolt ahead and the safety catch applied, the bolt is also locked forward. Prevents it from opening accidentally while in transit. As I mentioned, the bolt catches on this side here. To remove the bolt, lift up on the bolt catch, and the bolt may be withdrawn to the rear. Now we'll have a look at the Ross rifle bolt here. This is the M10 style with the multiple locking lugs and a very large, beefy extractor. This is an exceedingly strong pattern of action. Sporting Ross rifles were chambered for the 280 Ross in addition to the 303 British or 303 Ross cartridge, and the 280 routinely developed excessively high pressures which the Ross rifle action was capable of dealing with. It's basically a miniature version of an artillery piece breech is what that locking lug is. It's reputed that the Ross M10 action is the strongest bolt action manufactured until, I believe, the Weatherby Mark V came out to handle the big Weatherby cartridges. Okay, so we can see here the Ross has a internal magazine, non-detachable. It's kind of an unusual configuration inside. There's basically a spring and an arm in there which has a lifter on it, and the feed lips are sort of sprung separately. They're not affixed to the receiver like you'd expect in a Mauser. And this one's it's a 6-shot, which is once again, it's basically the military type magazine, which has been just used straight up as is. And of course, the cartridges have to go in with the rims in front of each other so that they don't interfere with feeding on one another. And it is, of course, a 6-shot magazine, just like the military Ross. So it's a pretty reliable magazine. Okay, a couple of things which I almost neglected to mention, and here's an important thing. You can see the caliber designation is marked as 303 Ross. Now, basically what that is a match specification 303 British chamber. It's a 303 British chamber without all the excessive clearance cuts, basically. So when you fire a round in this Ross rifle, the cartridges come out looking pretty much the way they did when they went in, without any undue expansion. So they reload very well. The brass is not excessively stretched, and it's quite a change from a Lee Enfield. Now, of course, the downside to that is it's much more sensitive to proper tolerance ammunition, but of course that should not be a problem because this is a sporting rifle and we are not going to be shooting any old crappy out of spec ammunition in it. We're going to be shooting modern production semi-spec ammo in it. Another thing that I should mention is back here, this cover on the top. On a military Ross, that is where the aperture rear sight would be set up. Now, those aperture rear sights were one reason why the Ross was such an accurate shooter, because they were very adjustable, very finely adjustable. They were almost a target sight. And of course, with the sporter version here, we've got this buckhorn style Winchester sight with a slider on it, and it can be drifted in its dovetail for windage, and of course you have the slider to elevation adjust. Those are not great sights, they're not bad. They're a little bit small in my opinion. The original military Ross type sights that they put on the Mark IIIs are much more precise than this sporting rifle sight, but they are what they are. Well, you can't mention the Ross rifle without somebody bringing up the subject of bolts exploding back out of the gun into the shooter's forehead, which is one of those things which has been bandied about for pretty well 100 years now, and which is basically a very unfair criticism of the rifle. Unless you're an absolute moron, you can see that this rifle is assembled correctly and that the bolt is assembled and is going into battery. So you can see the bolt head here. This is just before the rifle goes into battery. Now hopefully we can see this. Get in there a little closer. Hopefully you can see that. You can see the bolt rotating into place. So it's pretty obvious with this rifle if the bolt is assembled correctly. You can see the bolt rotate and lock into place. If it does that, you are good to go.